We've gone too far from
apartheid from the whites, from all the Bantu people. And then the other group that had different rights were the people who came from India. Kumalo began, here you see Pietermaritzburg. Ikopo was here. Does anybody know about the plateau of South Africa? What that means when I talk about the Highveld Plateau? Do you remember? What's that?
Mountains, did you mean?
It's like mountains, yeah. In fact, South Africa is, yeah, that's right. This whole entire area is flat and high. The Drakensberg, where he started his journey, he started in the valley of the mountains. But the mountains start here and they fall down to the sea. When you climb up the mountains, you don't fall down another side. You just climb up the mountains, and we hiked here just a few weeks ago. Climb up, and then you see the top, and then you're on the plateau. So his train started here in Ikopo. He climbed up, he went toward Pietermaritzburg, and then the normal route is kind of this way up to Johannesburg. A huge, long distance. And yet, thousands and millions of people made it then and make it today. Because then especially, the cities are not big. If most people live rurally, if you live in a tiny little village, and then you have a wife or you have a husband, and you have children, you need to put food on the table. Where will you work if you live in a tiny little village?
Fields.
What's that?
Fields.
And in the fields, like farming. Yeah, farming. And who are you going to sell your crops to?
Those people in the small village.
And if that's just a small amount,
Big city.
you probably do what most people had to do, and they would send the husband, the father, generally would go to the big city because that's where the money is, that's where the jobs are. But you can't go back and forth in a day. You have to walk or take a train, but you can't take a train very often, not every week, because you don't have the money for that. So you go and you stay in the city. And that's what was happening in this story. There are some Zulu words I just wanted to bring to your attention, which you'll see in the text. Did anybody come across any of them yet?
Miss Favorite told us about one.
Yes? Yeah? And do you remember what it was?
Tikso.
What's that?
Tikso.
Tito. Yeah? I think that one's on here. And do you have an idea what that means?
It's the Zulu word for, it's the Zozo word for the Great Spirit.
Yeah, like the Great Spirit, the Zulu word for the Great Spirit. And that just kind of rolls off their tongues. It's a Christian-dominated culture through missionary, but the Zulu culture is very present. And Umfundisi.
That's just a term for a respectable person.
And today, also, children will say to their teachers, you can say to Miss Spangler, to Mrs. Marshall Umfundisi. That's how they relate to them. You don't hear it a lot. And you probably hear it more in the villages than in the city. But Umfundisi is a way of showing respect for a priest or for a teacher.
Amazing that's the word I taught you and you forgot it.
I know. Once you said it, I knew I was
in the back of the book, Patton said that he used Tikso because the Zulu word was too long. Because that, the Zozo word is.
The Zozo is too long. The mines. Now, I've been getting earfuls about the mines from Len, my husband, because he worked in the mines as a doctor for a number of years, just trying to earn extra money for his family, and he's very interested and attached to the way this worked. This is kind of an older mine, about the time of the novel. This is a mine shaft, and perhaps you're familiar with this structure, but the thing to point out here is that the cable has been dismantled. Normally there's a big cable, and this is how people are lowered into the mine. and how rocks are taken out. About 100,000 tons of rocks are taken out each day, or at the time of when part of the beloved country, for 3 ounces of gold. I'll say that again. 100,000 pounds of rocks have to be taken out. They're crushed when they get to the surface, and they go through it, and they get 3 ounces of gold. If they get less than 3 ounces of gold, that's usually the drawing the line. It's not worth running the mine. More than 3 ounces of gold, and the mine owner is very happy. Okay, so you need a lot of manpower, a lot of strength to get all that rock out. The rock comes out of this little compartment, this little, it's like a lift, but the people have to get down there first. This thing, it's a little bit deceiving because you can't, they hear buildings, so you get a little bit of an idea of how big it is. It's quite big. It's 3 stories in there. And the 3 stories, each story, they fit about up to 20 people, 20 guys. White and black, everybody together, squished, hot, and you get lowered down up to 1 mile down into the ground. It's a little bit too far for one pulley to take you down with the weight, and if it breaks, that's a big problem. So they'll kind of have a series of 2 or 3 of those to get you down. And then you work 1 mile underground for the day. It's hot. You'll see these guys. I found photos of, we'll get there in a minute. These are the mine dumps. You see these all over still. This is all the crushed rock that wasn't gold. What do you do with it? Just make piles of it all over the place. All right? They extract the gold with cyanide. And later I'll show you. So with cyanide, so a lot of this will have cyanide residue in it. Not healthy. Here's somebody being low or walking down into the mine. These next photos were taken in 1950 by Margaret Burke White, a famous American photographer, maybe you've heard of her, in South Africa, in Joburg. This is outside Joburg, just at a village. These young men are on their way to catch the train to go into the mine. This fellow has obviously been in the mine before. He's wearing these rubber straps around his legs, and then this is a belt that my husband recognized also that he had. It's a rubber belt that you bring down into the mine with just a few of your belongings. These guys are new to mining. They have not done it before. They've left their families and they're on their way. This is a barrack. It's where the guys stay. 40 guys in one room. You can see some of these men are more traditional. They come from villages that are still very traditional. And these are more Western influenced. Here we're about 2,000 feet underground, and they are taking these big rocks and putting them onto these trolleys that then get lifted up above the ground. You can see these guys work. This isn't a mile underground. She used bright light, but it's dark. That's why they wear the lights. You can see they don't wear a shirt. It's so hot, the work that they're doing. It's hard work. And when they talk in the book about we lose them all to the mines, we lose so many to the mines. Many people die, but those who don't die earn enough money to send back to their family to raise their children. This is where the money was. It's also where disease was. There is a high incidence of TB, tuberculosis, which is a bacterial disease, but it's spread through contact with others, so easily spread in the mines. And a fibrosis of the lungs. Silica is in the dust of the rock that attaches to the little particles in the lungs, and then there's kind of scar tissue that forms over that. The whole lung hardens, and people eventually die of that. Also common. So it was a hard life. It is a hard life. A theme in the story is corruption. The corruption that comes from city life. What does corruption mean to you?
Something being destroyed.
Something being destroyed. What else? Pardon? Greed. Greed. Anybody else? Yeah.
Someone in power being